Tax, a necessary cost we pay in exchange for infrastructure and social amenities, or a levy on our income so the rich can get richer. Today, 25 million people in the UK will be hit with a tax increase that will see a household with an income of £30,000 be £300 to £400 poorer. Rishi has set this tax rise to fund social care. In this video, I'm going to cover what this means for your money and if there's anything that we can do about it. So a couple of weeks ago, I uploaded a video to this channel where I was speaking with Gary Stevenson. If you don't know who Gary Stevenson is, he has been on my podcast. He was on my live literally last Sunday. He is an inequality economist. He's a millionaire ex-trader. And we were talking about wealth divide, wealth inequality, and more specifically, in the video from 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how all of the money that the government printed to pay for furlough and to keep the country afloat during the pandemic is at some point going to be paid back by not the wealthy, but everyday people like you and I. And if you fast forward to today, we are about to receive news that Rishi Sunak is going to announce a 1.25% increase on national insurance contributions. Now, national insurance contributions are a very, very employee-based tax. So it's targeted at working people. And in this video, we're going to talk about why they just don't tax the wealthy, because that is a really important question to ask and to try and seek answers for. I don't necessarily think that I have the answers for that, but something needs to be done. And we're talking about, is there anything that we can actually do? But what I do want to do at the moment is bring this into context. A 1.25% increase in your national insurance tax may not seem like a huge amount of money, but actually it is. This increase is rumored or projected to raise an additional £12 billion for government to fund the NHS so that they can catch up on lost time from the pandemic. Now, I feel a certain way about the NHS. The NHS is a fantastic institution in this country. And I think for most people, when they talk about a tax rise and they realize that it's for the NHS, most people will be like, okay, I'm okay with that. And that may be true, but there is a certain segment of this population that will still be unhappy with a tax rise. Because let's face it, are we mugs here? We've had council tax increases this year across the country. We have inflation increasing, so the cost of things that we're buying on a day-to-day are increasing. And now we are going to have more money taken from our paychecks before we even get paid it. Whilst it is for a good cause, the question is, why can it not be sourced from somewhere else? Now, depending on what your earning brackets are, this is how much this 1.25% increase is going to cost you as a person moving forward. And this gets a little bit worse because in funding this social care bill, if you will, there are further changes coming down the line as well around some other taxes, which for the Tories is really bad news. Stuff that they said that they wouldn't break. They promised no tax increases in the last election. This is what they've got round to now. And many people will argue this is a very unique situation and they don't have that many choices. Again, I'm going to question that in a moment. But one thing that is also expected to change today is the promise about the triple lock on pensions. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's essentially a promise to say that if you are a pensioner receiving your pension, and this could be for your mum, your dad, your granddad, the government promised that they would not break the triple lock, which is essentially the promise that the pensions will increase alongside CPI every single year so that your pension income has the ability to keep up with the rate of inflation around you. It is rumored that that is also going to be broken today. Big questions need to be asked. Now, whilst we've already identified that 1.25% may not necessarily be a large amount of money, but will amount to a large amount of money when we talk about the entire population that this actually impacts, circa around about 25 million people, there is a question that has to be asked. And that question is, could they not have taxed or found this tax in a different form? Could they have not taxed the wealthy? And if you've paid attention to my podcast recently, where I have had Gary on the show, you will know that he speaks very, very directly about tax on the wealth. And look, people have lost jobs over the last 18 months. People have lost livelihoods. People have suffered immensely over the last 18 months. Not just financially either. The mental health consequences of being locked into your houses for 18 months for such a long time is still unknown at this point. We can see this in kids as they go back to school. To now be told that we then have to pay extra, money is going to be taken out of our paycheck when things are already pretty tight for the average person is almost a kick in the teeth. And I'm not a political person. I'm definitely not in that realm. And I'm certainly not an economist as well. So that's not my area of expertise. But what I do want to question here is, why do they not tax the wealthy? And look, I'm going to throw out a suggestion of my own. We know that there is a lot of investment happening right now into the stock market. Over the last 12 months, there have been a huge influx of investments, money into the stock market. One thing they could have done is perhaps taxed capital gains, raise the tax on capital gains. That would hit a certain echelon of people in society. Capital gains allowance is £12,500. Well, guess what? If you have a portfolio that is going to mean that you have a capital gain of 12,500, you are going to be of a certain caliber in society. So why not just take it from there? Why not tax the wealthy on investment income or other forms of income that they actually hold? These are all questions that need to be asked. And look, I don't have the answer to these questions. However, you can't help but think that the people in power are so disconnected to the ordinary people on the street that they are almost protecting themselves. Look at Rishi Sunak himself. He is from a billionaire, very, very wealthy family. Most people in Westminster are from wealthy backgrounds. We talk about representation. How much of Westminster is reflective of the general public here in the UK, struggling with the fact that you've got to pay £140 a month in council tax, facing increases on that regardless of what happened in the pandemic? How much of Westminster is actually reflective of that? It's a real question, and it is a concern. Because whilst people will talk about the fact that, yes, the NHS needs to be funded, the NHS is behind, and there is a real societal impact with surgeries, like really important surgeries being delayed and people being in dire need of these surgeries, surely there was a better place for you to source this money so that the everyday people who have suffered so much in the pandemic don't have to foot the bill. Again, if you've not listened to that podcast episode, that video episode that I uploaded 2 weeks ago with Gary Stevenson, this is the thumbnail for it right here. I'm going to link it with the card right above right here. Go and watch it. What can we do? I don't know. Gary speaks a lot about using our political influence. And that isn't necessarily meaning you should vote Tory or Labour, but is letting the government know that as a nation of people, we are not happy with the current status quo. Tax the wealthy for this. There are a number of wealthy people. And again, if you listen back to the episode, Gary explains how wealthy people made millions and billions in the pandemic, whilst every other person in the country was suffering. And that isn't necessarily because they had an evil plan. It's the way our system is set up to allow these things to happen. Why not tax the billionaires, the millionaires, the wealthy people? Well, the reality is most of the people in Westminster are millionaires, are billionaires, and they will never get round to taxing themselves. And I don't know about you, but it kind of makes you feel a bit like this.